Let's talk about gaming phones. As cool as they are, gaming phones have always had a reputation for being expensive. That's usually to be expected though, considering manufacturers often add their own quirks to the phone to make them unique and to make them powerful. This can come in the form of air triggers, coolers, or even an overclocked version of the most powerful chipset on the market. However, Infinix has long wanted to change that narrative, and if you've seen our past reviews of the Infinix gaming phones, you know they're just trying to do just that. But the new Infinix GT30 Pro might have just made gaming phones affordable for almost everyone. With a starting price of just 13,999 pesos, it definitely punches above its weight on paper, especially with all the features that it comes with. But just how capable is this new Infinix GT30 Pro when it comes to gaming and of course being a phone? Well, let's find out in this review. So let's start with the design of the Infinix GT30 Pro, and it looks and feels like a proper gaming phone. Compared to the minimalist styling of recent Infinix phones we've tried, the GT30 Pro features a stylish back panel with a mech-like appearance. Although it might not seem like it, there are also customizable LED lights hidden right here. These are called the mechanical light waves. These lights can be turned on permanently. However, you can also choose when to have them on, like playing games, blasting music, or even when you're charging. On the upper left corner of the back panel, you'll find the rectangular camera island which houses the dual rear camera system. Though it's a bit hard to notice at first, there's also a green accent that wraps around the camera island. Our review unit is in the shadow ash color, which I personally like the best. But if this color isn't your vibe, the GT30 Pro is also available in blade white and dark flare, which has an even more gaming vibe. For a gaming phone, Infinix also made the GT30 Pro lightweight and slim. It only weighs 188 grams and is just 7.99mm thick. No USB 3.5mm audio port here, but you do get the usual USB-C port at the bottom and one of the two JBL tuned loudspeakers. On the right side of the phone are the power button and volume rockers, with the other loudspeaker found at the top. It also has an IP64 rating for dust and water resistance. But here's the kicker. The Infinix GT30 Pro comes with a feature that you'll usually find just on top spec gaming phones: air triggers. Infinix calls them GT triggers, and it helps make gaming a lot easier. Depending on what game you play, you can easily map actions to the left and right GT triggers. When you're not using the GT triggers to play games, the triggers can be used to activate apps like the camera. You can even use the triggers as a shutter when taking photos, but we'll talk more about that later on. Now, our review unit also came with the GT Pro gaming case, which includes a MagSafe case and the MagCharge cooler. The case hides the back panel design, but it still features small slits so the LED can still be seen. The cooler is a bit big, but it's relatively light at just 78 grams. It mounts via the MagSafe mount on the case, so no USB plug-in here. It charges via USB-C and can be turned on and off separately from the phone. But the GT triggers aren't the only thing on the Infinix GT30 Pro that really surprised us. The display is equally impressive, featuring a 6.78-inch screen that utilizes an AMOLED panel with 1.5K resolution and a peak brightness of 4,500 nits. But the best part? It has a 144Hz refresh rate. Now, I'm glad Infinix didn't add a curved display on the GT30 Pro, since it's not really the best for playing games, at least in my opinion. Now, I'm sure having a flat display might be a turn-off for some of you guys, but it helps when you don't accidentally hit parts of the screen when you're playing the game. This is especially useful for users with big hands like me. This being an AMOLED panel, the colors are vivid, the details are sharp, and there's nice contrast too. The borders are thin and symmetrical all around. The viewing angles are great too, giving users an immersive viewing experience. With that, I spent a good time binge watching videos on the GT30 Pro to catch up on the series that I've been putting off. In addition to the display, the GT30 Pro also features dual stereo speakers tuned by JBL. They're loud and have a great soundstage out of the box, which is not something I expected from this phone. However, it does lack bass, but again, that's to be expected from phones of this price point. The more important bit is that it is loud, and when you're playing games, you can hear everything that happens even without headphones, because you don't really have a 3.5mm audio port to work with. It's not often you find a 144Hz refresh rate display on a budget gaming phone, especially at this price point, and I'm glad Infinix was able to do so with the GT30 Pro. Moving on to the cameras, and as I mentioned earlier, the Infinix GT30 Pro comes with dual rear cameras featuring a 108 megapixel main shooter and an 8 megapixel ultra wide. For selfies, you get a 13 megapixel front camera. Now, I had my reservations with the camera of the GT30 Pro given the specs on paper, but I'm glad to say it's a lot better than I initially expected. The main camera is very capable, especially if you're just shooting in 1x zoom. You can even zoom up to 2 times and the quality is retained, especially in well-lit environments. The images captured by the GT30 Pro have great sharpness and there's nice contrast too. The colors aren't that vivid, but instead gives you a more natural look and feel. There's also a good balance between the highlights and the shadows, even in overly bright photos. However, if you zoom beyond 2x, you'll immediately notice the drop in quality. While there is AI enhancement in the processing, it's still different from having a separate telephoto lens, which this phone lacks. It's a similar story when using the ultra-wide camera. There is a noticeable difference in quality as compared to using the main shooter, even when you're in the same lighting environment. In low light, the image quality drops, but it's still usable when using the main camera and at 1x zoom. The noise isn't really that bad, and the subject remains sharp overall. There are no overblown highlights or over-smoothed dark areas either, which makes it look cartoonish. However, I would recommend staying in 1x zoom or at least 2x zoom at most when shooting at night. Depending on the lighting, if it's really bad, the details can also be soft, but that's to be expected. The front camera, meanwhile, is decent for selfies in well-lit environments. But of course, do manage your expectations. Like the main camera, there is a noticeable drop in quality when you start to lose lighting. As for video, the Infinix GT30 Pro can record up to a maximum 4K at 60 FPS, while the front camera is limited to just 4K at 30 FPS. The quality is very similar to that of the images, meaning you will have to stay at 1x zoom or 2x zoom to make the most out of it. So, overall, the cameras are decent for what they are. But then again, the cameras aren't exactly the strongest suit of the Infinix GT30 Pro after all. I mean, this is a gaming phone. Instead, what makes the Infinix GT30 Pro a great budget gaming phone is the chipset. Under the hood, it packs a MediaTek Dimensity 8350 Ultimate chip. And depending on what variant you choose, the GT30 Pro is available at either 8GB or 12GB of RAM. For storage, users can pick between 256GB or 512GB of UFS 4.0 storage. For reference, our review unit right here is the top spec variant with 12GB of RAM and 512GB of storage. There is no micro SD card slot though, so if you plan on downloading a lot of games, I would recommend choosing the 512GB variant to be sure they all fit on this phone. The Dimensity 8350 Ultimate on the GT30 Pro is a very capable chip, and it was able to handle all of our day-to-day tasks without any issue. This includes checking emails, watching videos, surfing the net, and more, and leaving a lot of apps running in the background. But it really shines when you're playing games. I mainly played Genshin Impact and COD Mobile on this phone, and together with the 144Hz display and air triggers, or GT triggers for that matter, I had a great time playing games. On Genshin, the game ran on medium to high graphics at 60 FPS smoothly. Paired with the 1.5K OLED display, this made playing Genshin a lot more enjoyable, especially when I'm out in the world exploring. Honestly, I wouldn't mind playing for long hours on this phone. It's a lot better compared to the usual experience we'd have playing Genshin on phones at this price point. It's also nice to be able to map the skill and burst of the characters onto the GT triggers. Of course, you can also choose to map this to other buttons, but personally, this setup works the best for me. This made it a lot easier to playing the game as someone who is used to playing on a controller. I no longer had to tap the screen to use the skill or even use the burst. Instead, I could focus on aiming and moving my characters around. As for COD Mobile, it ran on max settings without any issues whatsoever. But what's great about it is that you can max it out on 120 FPS, as Genshin is limited to 60 FPS. And if you're someone who plays competitive shooters, you know that FPS means a lot. Meanwhile, the GT triggers make it feel like I'm playing on a controller with the aim down and fire button. Overall, it just made playing COD Mobile a lot easier. Now, the phone does heat up slightly, but that's why the MagCharge cooler is here to help dissipate heat. Now, for reference, after around 30 to 40 minutes of gameplay, there will be some heat, but again, even without the MagCharge cooler, it is manageable. Of course, we also ran our usual benchmarks and we were impressed by the scores. You can also check them out on screen right now. The Infinix GT30 Pro runs on Android 15 skinned with XOS 15. It's very much the same XOS we've come to love from Infinix, but now features Infinix AI. As usual, the apps look clean and it's easy to play around with the personalization options in the settings. However, what we don't like about the XOS is the amount of bloatware, and this is no exception. The moment the phone booted up, it automatically downloaded a bunch of games and apps that I wouldn't be using. So I just end up deleting this app since they made the home screen look very clustered. While there is a bunch of bloatware, Infinix AI does make up for it. Infinix calls it Folax AI, but it runs on DeepSeek AI and not ChatGPT. As for the battery, the Infinix GT30 Pro has a slightly larger than usual 5,500 mAh battery pack. With that, you'd expect the battery to last longer than usual, right? Well, that doesn't seem to be the case with the GT30 Pro. Based on my experience, the GT30 Pro drains battery quite fast if you have the LED lights at the back turned on and when you're playing a lot of games. However, that's to be expected, but when you're just using it for day-to-day tasks, it lasts a lot longer. Again, this just shows how battery life is very much dependent on the user. If you plan on playing a lot of games, of course, bring a power bank with you. But if not, you can get around with more than a day of battery life. To give you guys a better idea, we also ran PCMark's battery test and the results are on screen right now. When you do need to charge, it does come with 45-watt charging and even 30-watt wireless charging. The Infinix GT30 Pro is a great budget gaming phone that punches well above its weight. With a starting price of just 13,999 pesos for the 8 plus 256GB variant, you definitely get your money's worth. For the 12 plus 512GB variant we have here, it retails for only 15,999 pesos. Now, if you want the gaming edition variant, the 8GB plus 1256GB variant retails for 14,999, while the 12 plus 512GB model is priced at 16,999. And even at this price, this is still very affordable considering what the GT30 Pro can do. However, it's far from being a perfect all-around phone. While it's great for gaming, the cameras are a bit lackluster, especially when you're in low light. There's also some heating issues which can be solved by the GT Mag Charge cooler, but again, you need to put this on. But for the price and performance, these can be easily ignored. And if you're looking for a gaming phone on a budget, why not check this out? But still, what do you think of the Infinix GT30 Pro? Is it a phone you'd consider buying for your gaming on-the-go needs? Or would you pick something else? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And as usual, if you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like and subscribe to watch more. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms at Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. And of course, visit yugatech.com to stay updated with the latest tech news and reviews. Once again, this has been Jose, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Jane.